Reddit by Reddit recap. What is your hottest and most random sexual encounter? Something you still think about today. When I was in my 20s I frequented a phone sex chat line and ended up hooking up with a woman who was in her late 50s. We met in a public place, both decided it was safe, and we went out to dinner. After we ate she came right out and asked if I wanted to go back to her place and she was okay looking and told me that I could do anything I wanted. I took her up on the offer and she was a woman of her word and didn't say no to anything. And she suggested some things I had never thought of at that age. You're literally the king of all 999 number callers. That's awesome. I still think of her once in a while. Right after that encounter I started dating a woman my own age and decided it wouldn't be right to see the older woman again, and by the time I was single again, she had moved, so I lost touch with her. It is close to 20 years later now, I'm in my 40s, she would be in her 70s, and if I could somehow come in contact with her and she was willing I would do it all over again. I'm curious to hear what things you tried with her. We played well into the night, slept and continued the next morning. There was oral anal, bondage, golden showers, mutual masturbation, playing with food, playing with toys, and ended up with a nice long shower together, and some shower probably other things that escape my memory at the moment. Oh yeah, and the first finger up my experience was pretty darn good too. Oh yeah, that little thing. To preface this, I have some nerve damage in my lower back from an injury. It works to my benefit because if a spot on my lower back is rubbed long enough it translates into an orgasm, like legs shaking and trouble standing. But it appears mostly innocent from a bystander point of view, which I'm all about. That don't include others in your kink without consent thing. I also, generally speaking, don't tell people until I've known them a while because, well, it's been overused, and when I don't want it enough times, that there's a trust issue. So my date was holding my waist damn near the entire time we walked and talked for probably a solid 2 hours around the city. Being much taller than me, it meant a lot of genuinely innocent rubbing. It had me edging for damn near most of the time. Then the stairs. You know those kind of stairs that go up the side of a hill and take forever to climb. Every step down there's that jostle, and by this point the conversation was getting a wee bit bratty / flirty. He ended up smacking my playfully close to the bottom steps and I just could not hold the moan. My face went full red and he just looked at me, grabbed my waist, and locked his hands on my Needless to say we learned I can balance on a stair railing, and it was the hottest random I have ever had. Also why I still love summer dresses without the underwear. This is a good one. Goddamn. As a man, I too love summer dresses with or without underwear. /suddenly trans or man. I liked being a straight cis guy. Well, guess I can be a trans lesbian. It's pretty similar. Welcome to the gang Cs. Do we have a secret handshake? So I was working at a summer camp in my early 20s. The summer can gone by, and it was the last night there, and we had a big fire to celebrate the end of the summer and everyone dresses up in shirts and ties and dresses. We all hung out and slowly people started dropping off one by one, until it was me and cute blonde girl. We sit and talk about random stuff until there are just embers are left. At this point we had started talking about kinks, and she has moved right next to me. We start making out, and my hand finds its way between her legs, and she is just dripping. We move over to a picnic table and I use my tie to bind her hands and eat her out until she Since I didn't have any condoms and didn't trust my endurance, it had been a few years since I last had sex. I throated her and she shallowed every last drop. This was the start of a 4-year-long relationship of occasional dating and FWB with some of the kinkest I have ever had. Currently she is in a serious relationship, so sadly our activities had to stop. That sounds perfect. Too bad it had to stop. That makes me sad. Yeah, I'm a bit bummed, but she kind of went crazy with this new guy and burnt a lot of bridges in the friend group and twisted a lot of things that other people said, so it might be for the best in the end. On the upside it means I can find a new FWB that is even kinker. Definitely dodged a bullet. It wasn't exactly random, but it was kind of unexpected. During a siblings trip where we were staying at my oldest brother's house, my partner and I went upstairs to take a nap before going out that night. I was spooning him and I woke up to him touching me really gently on my hips, thighs, ass. I started getting tingly. Foreplay was especially hot and we started f***ing slow. The walls were super thin, so I was trying to be quiet. Suddenly he put his hand over my mouth and thrust really deep into me. Then he took his hand off my mouth and I begged him to please f*** me hard, and I'll never forget what he said because the way he said it was just so hot. I will, but you have to be quiet, okay? He said it with such authority and sternness, and the deeply submissive part of me f***ing melted. I love to be told what to do, and I love when I'm told what to do in a way that requires an answer. That sex was f***ing fabulous. The start of that second sentence had me a little worried. I was trying to be conscious of how I worded that sentence. It's a good thing I proofread it, because the first draft was accidentally a little r/said incest. I was at a party I didn't really want to go to, but it was the end of a week full of tests and I needed to unwind a bit. I was out on the balcony, having a smoke, and she stepped out next to me. The music swelled and muffled as the door opened and closed. I gave her a cigarette, and she used mine to light it. She then had me hers, and smoked mine. The following hours there was this buzz whenever we saw each other. My friend saw me looking, and began a conversation with her friend to single her out. I went in. I walked up to her, holding a cigarette. "Let's share this one." She laughed and agreed. We had an amazing conversation about nothing, and she was constantly playing with my hands. That night we were inseparable. We went back to her place and had an amazing night. It was in sync, and it was often. Not much shut-eye that night. The next morning I fell asleep with her in my arms, and I woke up empty-handed. I spent the morning and afternoon at her place, and that night I went back for seconds. Now we are just friends, and not many people in my group of friends know about it. There are speculations. Goddamn, her tongue is something I will remember forever. Why are you only friends? We were both not looking for something serious, and now we are both in a relationship. While working at a school, I had multiple students mention that their mothers thought I was cute. My reply was always that those comments were inappropriate, and they should not be saying that to me. One of those mothers was one that I myself had always found attractive, and we would always exchange hellos. After visiting a restaurant that she worked at, she slipped me her cell number, and we began texting and flirting. A few weeks later we began meeting up at her apartment when her children spent the week at her ex's house. She would invite me over on my lunch break and would be waiting for me naked on her knees. At nights she would bust out her boxes of toys, cuffs, restraints, oil/lube, dice, plugs, and we would have the wildest sex I've ever experienced. She would let me try anything and everything with her, and always made sure I was pleased. We knew that the relationship we were developing would not last due to the age gap and life circumstances, so we had to cut it off after about 6 months. Every time I see her or her kids, I miss and wish that things were different, but those memories of our time together will always be unforgettable. What was the age gap? 10 years, I argued, but she didn't think it would work. I'm 35 and my GF is 16 years my senior. We've been together almost 2 years and we have an awesome time. 10 years is nothing unless one really cares about the social stigma of it. One day at my job there was a blackout, which means we had to stop working cause I was a cook and mostly everything in the kitchen was electronic. Everyone went outside to sit on the patio except me and my co-worker. She grabbed my hand and led me to the bathroom. She grabbed my balls until I got hard and then pulled my pants off and proceeded to go down on me. After a few minutes of that I propped her up on the sink and went to lunch until she came. I then bent her over the kitchen sink and f***ed her until she came again. I then busted my load all over her face and glasses. We washed up and then joined the rest of our co-workers outside. The lights came back on in like 30 minutes and we continued on like nothing happened. I miss her and our little work flings, but this one was the most exciting and random. Will never forget it. Still gets me off just fantasizing about it. The kitchen and dish crew are always f***ing freaky. Why is that? Haha, we have a lot of pent up rage to get out in a constructive and fun way, lol. After all that cooking, it's time to eat. Everyone is f***ing everyone in a restaurant. Always been that way for some reason. It's the same with M's. We just saved a life. Now let's create one, haha. I was 17 and fresh out of a relationship with the first guy I'd ever had sex with. I'm a very sexual person, but also incredibly awkward when it comes to boys. So I was lonely and sad and horny. My best girlfriend said she knew a guy I may like, and while she was at his house one day, called and invited me over. I showed up and there were only 3 other people there. My friend, a guy we'll call Tom, the guy, and some other dude. We chatted for a few minutes, but then just sat in silence, and just when I started wondering why the hell my friend invited me here, she nudged Tom. Tom stood up and said something to me along the lines of, "Hey, come back here with me and check this out." I got up and we headed to the back of the apartment, which turned out to be his bedroom. The lights were still off. He shut the door behind me and kissed me. It was soft at first but quickly progressed as we got a sense of each other. He shoved me up against the wall and we just went at it like animals, then picked me up and sat me on his dresser. I don't remember how our clothes came off, but he fingered me while I sat on the dresser, and I remember having a better orgasm than I'd ever had with my ex in our 2 years together. We eventually moved over to the bed and f***ed. His d was huge. That was the first time I'd ever done doggy style, and it's been my favorite position ever since. After all was said and done, my girlfriend revealed to me later that she didn't really intend for us to date. She just figured I needed to get laid and thought the 2 of us would be a good match. He was way more experienced than me, so she had told him to just make a move and I'd probably go for it. Not sure if I've ever been more thankful for anything than I was that day, lol. Tom and I tried dating on and off over the next several years. Honestly, he was pretty dumb, and it was like trying to talk to a rock sometimes, but the sex was amazing. I kept going back until he got too attached and we broke it off for good. As a gay man, I understand the need to chase that good. Best comment of the day. At one point in time, one of my ex-GFs and I were living together at our mutual female friend's house. My GF was definitely good looking, but our female friend was much sexier to me. I'm a loyal guy, though, so I never acted on it while we were dating. We were all living together in a double wide 2-bedroom trailer that the female friend had inherited from her grandma that passed away. One night, my GF and I were in the bedroom going at it pretty hard when female friend accidentally walked in on us. She paused there for a fairly long time, just staring at us. She finally came to her senses and backpedaled, walking out of the bedroom appearing pretty flustered. A few months later, I ended up finding out that my GF was cheating on me on the regular with her ex-BF. We ended up breaking up, naturally, but I remained really good friends with our much hotter female friend that we were living with at the time. One day a while later, when her and I were hanging out, she asked me if I remembered that time she walked in on me and my ex having sex, which I did remember, and she proceeded to tell me why she had appeared so flustered at the time. It was because she had a huge crush on me and had wanted me real bad since the day we met, but knew she couldn't do anything about it since I was taken at the time. She was as well. Apparently, after seeing me naked, going at it with my ex-GF, she obsessed over seeing me like that for a really long time and proceeded to tell me about it and how she had wanted me really badly after that moment for as long as she could remember. After she tells me this, we immediately went and rented a hotel room in town. By this time, I had moved a few hours away and was no longer living with her or in her town and just had to get it out of our systems by having some mutually long anticipated sex with one another. In a way, this was the best revenge I got to get on my cheating ex by hooking up with her best friend afterwards. Some of the best friend sex I ever had. Would definitely do it again if I had the chance.